The first thing I registered was the cold. It seeped through the thin mattress, crept into my bones, a familiar, bone-deep chill I had not felt in decades. I opened my eyes to a ceiling I knew too well, the same hairline crack running from the corner of the beam like a black vein. My chambers. My old chambers. The brazier was unlit, the windows paper-thin, and the gray light of early dawn painted everything in shades of mourning. I pressed a hand to my chest. My heart was beating. I had died. I remembered the suffocating weight of the silk quilt, the smell of medicinal herbs that could not mask the scent of decay, the loneliness that had been my only companion for 37 years. General Wei had outlived me, as I had known he would. He had buried me in a plot far from the family tomb, with a simple marker that bore no title, no honor, only my name. An afterthought. A footnote in a life that had never been mine. Then the door slammed open. Mei Lin. You ungrateful wretch. The voice cut through me like a blade. I sat up so fast my head spun, and there he was, my father, Lord Chen, filling the doorway with his corpulent frame, his face purple with rage. Behind him, my stepmother, Lady Zhao, hovered like a vulture, her thin lips pressed into a satisfied smile. I could not breathe. He was alive. They were alive. I was alive. Do not father me, he bellowed, striding into the room. His robes were the same deep blue silk I remembered, his jade pendant swinging with each angry step. You think you can shame this household by refusing to even consider the match. General Wei is a distinguished man, a pillar of the empire. He has agreed to take you as his fourth wife, and you will be grateful. The words hit me like a physical blow. I had heard them before, 37 years ago, in this very room, on this very morning. I had wept. I had begged. I had fallen to my knees and clutched his robes, and he had kicked me aside like a stray dog. I had been so afraid, so utterly powerless. This time, I felt nothing but a cold, sharp clarity. Grateful, I said, my voice a dry rasp from disuse, but gaining strength with each syllable. Grateful to be sold to a man old enough to be my grandfather. Grateful to be his fourth wife, to watch him bury 3 women before me, to know that my only purpose is to warm his bed until I am discarded like the rest. Lady Zhao stepped forward, her voice honeyed poison. Mei Lin, your father is thinking of the family's future. Such a match would secure our standing with the military. You are a young woman, you will adapt. General Wei is kind, I laughed, and the sound was hollow, unfamiliar in my own ears. He beat his third wife so badly she could not walk for a month before she died. He keeps his concubines chained in the eastern wing. Do not speak to me of kindness, stepmother. You would have me endure that so your precious son has no rival for my mother's dowry. That is what this is about, isn't it? My father's face darkened. How dare you speak to your elders with such insolence? The betrothal contract is already signed. You will marry General Wei in 3 months, or so help me, I will have you dragged to his estate in chains. There it was. The contract. The document that had sealed my fate in my first life. I had never seen it, never touched it, but it had been the cage that held me for 37 years. Then you will be dragging a corpse, I said, my voice steady as stone. I will not marry him. And you will be the one to break the contract. He laughed, a cruel, barking sound. Break the contract with a general of the empire? You are a fool, girl. The penalty would ruin us, and you know it. We would lose everything. Lands, titles, our place at court. You would see your family destroyed over a fit of childish temper. Then we are both ruined, I said, rising from the bed. My legs were weak, but I forced them to hold me. Because I am leaving. I did not wait for his reaction. I pushed past him, my shoulder brushing against his silk robes, and I felt him stumble back in shock. Lady Zhao's sharp intake of breath followed me as I fled through the familiar halls. I had no plan. I had no money, no allies, no destination. All I had was the burning certainty that I would rather die in the gutter than live another day under his control. Servants pressed themselves against the walls, their eyes wide with terror. They had never seen me like this. I was the quiet daughter, the invisible one, the girl who had learned to make herself small to survive. But that girl was dead, buried in that unmarked grave, and I was something else entirely. I heard his footsteps behind me, heavy and furious. Stop her. Guards. Seize her. The main gate loomed ahead, its iron-bound wood a barrier between me and the unknown. I burst through it, my embroidered slippers slapping against the damp cobblestones. The morning air was cold against my flushed skin, the scent of rain and mud filling my lungs. I ran, my heart pounding, my breath coming in ragged gasps. 2 household guards were sprinting toward me, their boots splashing through puddles. They were faster than me, stronger than me. I could see the determined set of their jaws, the way they fanned out to cut off my escape. I was trapped. I would be dragged back, beaten, locked in my room until the wedding day. I had failed. And then I collided with a wall. Strong hands caught my arms, steadying me before I could fall. I looked up, my breath hitching, and found myself staring into the eyes of a man. He wore armor, a general's crest embossed on his chest piece, a red tassel hanging from the hilt of his sword. But this was not General Wei. This man was young, no older than 25, his jaw sharp, his eyes the color of cold jade. His expression was unreadable, a mask of perfect control. Several other soldiers flanked him, all mounted on sleek black horses. A military escort. And behind them, a man in civil robes dismounted gracefully, spectacles perched on his nose, a look of scholarly curiosity on his face. Forgive my intrusion, my lord, I stammered, trying to pull away. I was fleeing. The young lady seems to be in distress, the scholarly man said. He looked at me with keen, assessing eyes. Lord Li Wei, state censor. And you have just run into my younger brother, General Li Jian. The names hit me like a thunderclap. Li Wei, the emperor's most trusted advisor, a man of immense power and influence. And Li Jian, the youngest general in the empire, a military prodigy whose exploits were whispered about in every corner of the capital. In my first life, I had seen them from a distance at court gatherings, untouchable figures in a world that had no use for me. Now they were here. And my father had just caught up. He skidded to a halt, his face a mask of terror as he recognized the men before him. The guards dropped to their knees, bowing so low their foreheads nearly touched the ground. Lordly. Generally, my father said, his voice trembling with sudden obsequiousness. Please forgive my daughter's impertinence. A family squabble, nothing more. She is hysterical, overcome with nerves about her upcoming nuptials. I shall take her back inside immediately. Lord Li Wei's eyes flicked from my tear-stained face to my father's oily one. It sounded rather serious, Lord Chen. The young lady mentioned a betrothal, chains, and a corpse. My father's face went white. She exaggerates, my lord. Wild imagination. Girls of her age, they read too many romantic tales, they. It is no exaggeration, I said, stepping forward. My voice was trembling, but I forced the words out with as much clarity as I could muster. My father has signed a betrothal contract to General Wei. I am to be his 4th wife. He believes this is a worthy exchange for military favor. He does not care that I will be a widow within a year, or worse, that I will be trapped in a marriage with a man who treats women as possessions to be used and discarded. Lord Li Wei raised an eyebrow. General Wei. The old war hero, the very same, I said. And my father knows exactly what kind of man he is. He knows because I told him. I told him everything. And he did not care. He signed the contract anyway. My father sputtered, his face cycling through shades of purple and red. My lord, this is a private matter of clan politics. It is not for the imperial court to interfere in. Everything is the business of the imperial court, Lord Li Wei said smoothly, when a man of the empire is accused of selling his own daughter for political gain. It reflects poorly on the stability of the entire state. He turned to his brother, the silent general. Jian, you are a military man. What do you think of a marriage between a distinguished general and a girl who is old enough to be his granddaughter? General Li Jian's jade eyes met mine. There was something in his gaze, a flicker of recognition, perhaps, or calculation. He studied me for a long moment, and I felt exposed, stripped bare under his scrutiny. It is an alliance of convenience, he said finally, his voice a low rumble. For the general. The woman is a pawn. The father is a coward. The words lashed my father like a whip. He flinched, his fists clenching at his sides. General. You cannot speak to me that way. I am a lord of the court. A lord who betrays his blood, Lord Li Wei said, his voice hardening. I am afraid I cannot ignore this. The emperor has issued a decree regarding the protection of the families of officials. This kind of coercion will not be tolerated. He turned to me, a thoughtful expression on his face. Lady Chen, if I may offer a solution, I have just been informed that a new position as a royal scribe has opened in the Imperial Library. It is a modest role, but it requires a sharp mind, a steady hand, and most importantly, a woman of unimpeachable character who can be trusted with delicate documents. The work is demanding, but you would be a ward of the state, with a small stipend and a room within the palace grounds. Your father could no longer force you into a marriage you do not consent to, as it would be a direct affront to the emperor's own household. The offer was a lifeline, a chance to escape my father's control, to build a life of my own, to be something more than a bargaining chip. I could feel the hope rising in my chest, fragile and fierce. But before I could speak, my father saw his own plan crumbling. Desperation flickered in his eyes. Lord Li Wei, you speak with such certainty, but this is a family matter. The emperor cannot police every family's internal affairs. You cannot just wave a magical decree and erase a contract signed by a lord and a general. He was right. The decree existed, but it was rarely enforced. Precedent was with my father. Then General Li Jian stepped forward. He placed himself directly between me and my father, his presence a wall of steel and authority. The contract is signed with my seal, my father insisted. It cannot be undone. Can it not? General Li Jian said, his voice a blade of ice. He reached into his robe and produced a small, folded document. I have here a different contract. Lord Chen, you should recognize the seal. My father squinted at it, and his face went stark white. That's the royal seal. You cannot have that. It was given to me by the emperor himself, General Li Jian said calmly. It is a royal decree signed this very morning. It is a preemptive contract. He turned to me, his expression still unreadable. Lady Chen Meilin, I, General Li Jian, in accordance with the emperor's decree, hereby request your hand in marriage. You will be my wife, equal in all respects. You will not be a pawn. You will be my partner. This contract supersedes any other. The silence was absolute. I could hear my own heartbeat, the blood rushing in my ears. My father looked like a fish gasping for air. Lady Zhao's mouth hung open. Lord Li Wei smiled, a knowing, secretive smile. I stared at General Li Jian, this stranger who had just offered me a way out that was also a cage. He was offering me marriage, but not to a doddering old man. To him. A man of power, influence, and terrifying beauty. Why, what did he want from me? Your offer is generous, I said, my voice steady despite the chaos inside me. But I know nothing of you. You know nothing of me. Marriage is not a chess move, General. It is a binding of two souls. A partnership built on trust and respect. Can you offer me that? He stared at me for a long moment, and then he smiled. It was a small, fleeting curve of his lips, but it transformed his severe face into something almost warm. Your father called you hysterical, he said. But you're the most sensible person I have met in a very long time. You are right. A marriage based on a contract is a contract of convenience. It is not what I am offering. He stepped closer, so only I could hear him. I offer you an alliance, Lady Chen. I offer you a chance to be your own woman, with the full backing of my house. You will have freedom within the walls of my compound. You will have a voice. I have no need for a silent wife. I have need of a partner who can see the games that are being played and help me navigate them. I need your mind, Lady Chen. Not your breeding. The words hung in the air between us. He was offering me something I had never dared to dream of, a role, a purpose, a place at his side. But why, what could I possibly offer him that he could not get from 100 other women? I looked into his eyes, searching for the truth. You said the emperor gave you that decree, I said. That means you had it before you met me this morning. You planned this. Why? His smile widened, and there was a glint of something dangerous in his eyes. Because I have been watching you, Lady Chen. For a long time. And I knew that one day you would need me. I felt a chill run down my spine. He had been watching me. How long, for what purpose, and what else did he know about me that I had not yet realized? He extended his hand. Do you accept? The question hung in the air, heavy with consequence. I looked at his hand, at the strength in his fingers, at the promise and the mystery that lay beyond. And I took it. I accept, I said. The moment my fingers touched his, I felt a shift in the air, a crackle of something electric. My father's scream of rage faded into the background. All I could see was Li Jian's eyes, cold jade, burning with a fire I did not yet understand. This was only the beginning. The walls of Li Jian's compound rose around me like a fortress, their gray stone slick with morning rain. I had been here for 3 days, and still, I felt like a stranger in my own skin. Every surface was polished jade and carved sandalwood, every servant moved with silent precision, and every meal was a feast that would have fed my father's household for a week. It was everything I had never had, and it felt like a gilded cage. I stood at the window of my chambers, watching the rain streak down the glass, and tried to remember the last time I had felt safe. The answer came quickly: never. Not in my first life, not in this one. Safety was a luxury I had never been able to afford. The door opened behind me. I did not turn. I already knew who it was. You have been staring at that window for an hour, Li Jian said, his voice low and measured. The rain will not stop just because you will it too. I turned to face him. He was dressed in simple robes today, no armor, no sword, but he still carried himself like a man ready for battle. His jade eyes studied me with that same unreadable intensity that had unsettled me from the moment we met. I was thinking, I said. Dangerous habit, he replied, a ghost of a smile on his lips. Come. There is someone I want you to meet. He led me through the winding corridors of his compound, past gardens that bloomed with chrysanthemums despite the gray sky, past servants who bowed so low their foreheads nearly touched the floor. I followed in silence, my mind racing with questions I did not dare to ask. Who was this person? Why did he want me to meet them? And what else had he been planning without my knowledge? The room he led me to was smaller than the others, more intimate. A fire crackled in the hearth, and seated before it, her hands folded in her lap, was an old woman. Her hair was white as snow, her face lined with age, but her eyes were sharp and clear, the eyes of a woman who missed nothing. Lady Qin, she said, rising with surprising grace. I have heard so much about you. I glanced at Li Jian, who nodded almost imperceptibly. This is Grandmother Li, he said. My father's mother. She is the matriarch of this house, and she has been eager to meet you. Grandmother Li smiled, a warm, genuine expression that put me at ease despite myself. Eager is an understatement, my dear. I have been waiting for my grandson to bring home a woman with fire in her soul for years. He has brought home plenty of flowers, but none of them had thorns. I felt my cheeks flush. I am not sure I understand, Grandmother. She laughed, a sound like wind chimes. Oh, you understand perfectly. You are the first woman my grandson has brought to me who did not simper and curtsy and pretend to be something she is not. You are a survivor, Lady Chen. I can see it in your eyes. She motioned for me to sit, and I found myself obeying before I could think. Li Jian remained standing, his arms crossed, watching us both with an expression I could not read. You have questions, Grandmother Li said, settling back into her chair. About why my grandson chose you, about what he wants from you, about the secrets he keeps hidden behind that handsome face. I have many questions, I admitted. But I suspect you will not answer all of them. She chuckled. Clever girl. No, I will not answer all of them. But I will answer one. Ask me anything. I hesitated. There were so many things I wanted to know. Why had he been watching me? What did he know about my past? What did he want from me that he could not get from anyone else? But one question burned brighter than all the others. Who is General Wei to you? I asked. Why did you choose to defy him by taking me as your wife? Grandmother Li's smile faded. She glanced at Li Jian, who gave a slight nod. Then she turned back to me, her eyes suddenly old and tired. General Wei was my husband's closest friend, she said. They fought together in the northern campaigns, bled together, nearly died together. When my husband died, General Wei was the one who held the funeral rites. He was like a brother to us. She paused, and I saw a flicker of something dark in her eyes. But brothers can become enemies. When my son, Li Jian's father, was named to the Imperial Council, General Wei saw it as a betrayal. He believed he should have been given that position. He never forgave my husband's family for it. And he has spent the last 20 years trying to destroy us. I felt a chill run down my spine. So your offer of marriage to me was not just about saving me. It was also about striking back at General Wei. Grandmother Li nodded slowly. It was both, Lady Chen. My grandson saw an opportunity to hurt an enemy and save a woman in need. He is a strategist. He does not waste a move. I turned to look at Li Jian. He had not moved, had not spoken, but his eyes were fixed on me with that same unreadable intensity. Is that all I am to you? I asked. A move in your game. He stepped forward, his expression softening just slightly. You are not a move, Mei Lin. You are a partner. I told you that the day we met. But partnership requires honesty. And honesty requires you to know the full scope of what you have stepped into. He knelt before me, taking my hands in his. The gesture was so unexpected, so intimate, that I forgot to breathe. General Wei will not accept this marriage quietly, he said. He will try to destroy us, to annihilate everything we have built. He will use every weapon at his disposal, from political maneuvering to outright assassination. Are you prepared for that? I looked into his eyes, searching for any sign of deception. I found none. Only a fierce, burning determination that mirrored my own. I survived my father, I said. I survived 37 years of a marriage to a man who treated me like furniture. I think I can survive a general who has already lost once. Li Jian smiled, and this time, it reached his eyes. Good. Because we have a long fight ahead of us. He released my hands and stood, his demeanor shifting back to that of the commanding general. Grandmother has agreed to help us. She has connections, allies, resources that will be invaluable in the coming months. But we need to move quickly. General Wei will not wait for us to be ready. He will strike the moment he sees an opening. Then we will not give him an opening, I said. What is the first move? He looked at me with something like approval. The Emperor has summoned me to court tomorrow. He wants to discuss the drought relief plan you mentioned. You will come with me. I blinked. The Emperor, you want me to appear before the Emperor? You are my wife now, he said simply. And you are the architect of that plan. It is only right that you present it yourself. I felt the weight of his words settle on my shoulders. I had known, in theory, that my role in this marriage would be more than ceremonial. But this was the Emperor, the Son of Heaven. One wrong word, one misplaced gesture, and everything we had built could crumble. But I had not survived 2 lives to be afraid of a throne room. I will be ready, I said. The next morning, I dressed in robes of deep blue silk, the color of Li Jian's house. A maid arranged my hair with jeweled pins, and I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. I looked different. Stronger, somehow. The woman staring back at me was not the scared girl who had fled her father's house. She was someone new, someone forged in fire. Li Jian met me at the entrance to the compound. He was in full armor today, his sword at his hip, his expression severe. But when his eyes fell on me, something softened in his gaze. You look like a general's wife, he said. I am a general's wife, I replied. It is time I started acting like one. He offered me his arm, and I took it. Together, we walked to the palanquin that would carry us to the imperial palace. The ride was silent, but not uncomfortable. I spent the time mentally reviewing the drought relief plan, committing every detail to memory. I knew that the success of this presentation could determine not only our future, but the lives of thousands of people who would suffer if the drought came and we were not prepared. When we arrived at the palace, I was struck by the sheer scale of it. The walls seemed to stretch into the sky, their golden tiles gleaming in the pale sunlight. Guards in gleaming armor stood at every entrance, their faces impassive, their eyes watchful. Li Jian led me through a labyrinth of corridors, past officials who bowed and whispered as we passed. I could feel their eyes on me, curious, assessing. I was the woman who had been sold to an old general and rescued by a younger one. I was a novelty, a scandal, a story to be whispered about in the shadows. And I would use that. Let them whisper. Let them wonder. It would only make my victory sweeter. The throne room was vast, its ceiling painted with dragons and clouds. The emperor sat on the golden throne at the far end, a young man with tired eyes and a weary smile. He looked like he had been carrying the weight of the empire on his shoulders for far too long. Generally, the emperor said, his voice echoing through the chamber. And Lady Li, welcome. I have heard much about you. I bowed deeply, following Li Jian's lead. Your Majesty, I said, my voice steady despite the pounding of my heart. Thank you for receiving us. The emperor gestured for us to rise. I am told you have a plan to address the coming drought. A plan that is unconventional. I took a breath, then stepped forward. It is unconventional, Your Majesty, because the situation requires unconventional thinking. The drought will not be like the ones we have seen before. It will be longer, more severe, and it will affect more than just the crops. It will affect the entire infrastructure of the empire. I laid out the plan as I had rehearsed it. The distribution of grain from the imperial reserves. The digging of new wells in strategic locations. The mobilization of the army to assist with relief efforts. The establishment of temporary shelters for displaced families. Every detail, every contingency, I presented with clarity and conviction. The emperor listened in silence, his expression unreadable. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. Lady Li, he said. You are either the most brilliant strategist I have ever met, or the most dangerous dreamer. I am not yet sure which. I am both, Your Majesty, I said. Because only a dreamer can see a future that others cannot, and only a strategist can make that future a reality. The emperor laughed, a sound that seemed to surprise even him. I like her, generally. She has fire. Li Jian stepped forward, bowing. She has more than fire, Your Majesty. She has vision. And I believe she is exactly what this empire needs. The emperor nodded slowly. I will consider your plan, Lady Li. But I have one condition. I felt my heart skip a beat. Name it, Your Majesty. He leaned forward, his eyes suddenly sharp. I want you to help me with something else. Something unrelated to the drought, but equally pressing. My court is filled with snakes, Lady Li, men who smile to my face and plot against me behind my back. I need someone I can trust. Someone with no ties to any faction, no loyalty to anyone but the empire itself. He looked at Li Jian, then back at me. General Li has vouched for you. But I want to hear it from you. Can I trust you, Lady Li? The question hung in the air. I could feel Li Jian's eyes on me, waiting for my answer. I could feel the weight of the emperor's gaze, heavy with expectation. I met his eyes and spoke the truth. Your Majesty, I have spent my entire life being used by men who claim to care for me. My father, my stepmother, even General Wei. I have no loyalty to any of them. But I have loyalty to this empire because it is the only home I have ever had. If you give me a chance to serve it, I will do so with everything I have. The emperor studied me for a long moment. Then he nodded. Very well, Lady Li. The plan is approved. And I have a new assignment for you. I want you to investigate a conspiracy in my court. Someone is leaking military secrets to the enemy. I need to know who it is, and I need to stop them. I felt the ground shift beneath me. A conspiracy. A spy. And I was supposed to find them. Your Majesty, I said carefully. I am not an investigator. I have no experience in matters of espionage. You have a sharp mind and a sharp tongue, the emperor said. That is more than most of my advisors have. And you have no ties to any faction, which means you have no reason to protect anyone. You are the perfect person for this task. I looked at Li Jian. His expression was unreadable, but I saw a flicker of something in his eyes. Concern, perhaps. Or warning. I turned back to the emperor. If that is your command, Your Majesty, I will do my best to fulfill it. The emperor smiled. I knew I could count on you, Lady Li. You are dismissed. I will have the details sent to your chambers. As we left the throne room, I felt Li Jian's hand on my elbow, steadying me. You should not have accepted so quickly, he said, his voice low. This is a dangerous game. All games are dangerous, I replied. But I have been playing them my entire life. I am just finally in a position to win. He looked at me, and there was something new in his eyes. Respect, perhaps. Or something deeper. Then we will play together, he said. And we will make sure that no one, not the Emperor, not General Wei, not anyone, can ever use you again. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that this partnership could be real, that we could build something lasting together. But as we walked through the corridors of the palace, I could not shake the feeling that there were more secrets waiting to be uncovered, more lies waiting to be exposed. And at the center of it all was the man beside me, the man who had saved me, who had offered me a future, who had looked into my eyes and promised me the world. I would find out his secrets. All of them. But first, I had a conspiracy to unravel. The Emperor's dossier landed in my hands like a live serpent. I spread the documents across the lacquered table in my chambers, my fingers tracing the names of the courtiers, generals, and ministers who had been marked as potential suspects. 5 names. 5 men who had access to the military dispatches that were being leaked to the northern tribes. 5 men who smiled at the Emperor while sharpening their knives behind his back. I had been at this for 3 days, and I was no closer to the truth. Every lead I followed twisted into a dead end. Every witness I questioned gave me the same empty smiles and hollow denials. It was like trying to catch smoke with my bare hands. Li Jian found me hunched over the documents, my eyes burning from hours of reading by candlelight. He placed a bowl of tea beside me, his fingers brushing mine. "You have not slept." "I cannot sleep," I said, not looking up. "Every time I close my eyes, I see the Emperor's face. He trusted me with this. I cannot fail him." "You cannot succeed if you exhaust yourself into illness," he said, his voice firm. "Come. Walk with me. Clear your head." I wanted to argue, but he was right. My mind was a fog of names and dates and half-formed suspicions. I rose from the table, letting him lead me through the winding corridors of his compound. The gardens were bathed in moonlight, the chrysanthemums silver ghosts in the darkness. The air was cool and clean, and for a moment, I almost forgot the weight pressing down on my shoulders. "You were too hard on yourself," Li Jian said, stopping beside a pond that reflected the stars. "This investigation would take even the most seasoned spy master months to unravel. You have been at it for 3 days. I do not have months," I said. "The Emperor expects results. And the northern tribes are already massing at the border. Every leak could mean lives lost." He turned to face me, his expression unreadable. "What if I told you that I already know who the spy is?" I stared at him. "You know, and you did not tell me." "I needed to be sure," he said. "And I needed to see if you would discover it on your own. You are my partner, Mei Lin. Not my puppet. I will not make decisions for you." I felt a flash of anger, hot and sharp. "You have been testing me while I have been tearing my hair out over these documents. You have been sitting on the answer." He did not flinch at my tone. "I have been protecting you. The spy is not just anyone, Mei Lin. The spy is Minister Wang, the Emperor's most trusted advisor on military affairs. He has been selling our troop movements to the northern tribes for 3 years, using a network of merchants as his couriers." The name hit me like a physical blow. Minister Wang. The man who had welcomed me to court with such warmth, who had praised my drought relief plan to the Emperor, who had offered me his personal congratulations on my marriage. He had been smiling at me while plotting the Empire's destruction. "How do you know this?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "I have had my own sources for years," he said. But I could not act on the information without proof. If I accused a man of Wang's standing without evidence, I would be the one who fell. "That is why I needed you." I felt sick. "You used me. You made me the Emperor's investigator so that I could uncover the evidence you already knew existed." "I made you the Emperor's investigator so that you could have the authority to uncover the evidence," he corrected. "And so that when you did, the credit would be yours. The Emperor will reward you, Mei Lin. And a reward from the Emperor is protection that no one can take away." I opened my mouth to argue, but the words died in my throat. He was right. I hated it, but he was right. He had given me the tools I needed to secure my own position, to make myself indispensable to the Emperor. He had not used me. He had empowered me. "The evidence," I said finally. "What is it?" He reached into his robe and produced a small, folded letter. "This was intercepted last night. It is a dispatch from Wang to his contact in the north, detailing the movement of our eastern regiments. The handwriting is his. The seal is his. It is enough to destroy him." I took the letter, my hands trembling. This was it. The proof I needed. I could take this to the Emperor and watch Minister Wang fall. But as I read the letter, something caught my eye. A detail that did not fit. The dispatch mentioned not just the eastern regiments, but also the western garrisons. Troops that had not been in the original military briefings I had reviewed. Where did Wang get this information? I asked, looking up at Li Jian. The western garrisons are classified. Even the Emperor's Council does not have access to their movements. Li Jian's expression shifted, just slightly. A crack in his perfect composure. I do not know. I studied him, searching for the truth in his eyes. You are lying to me. I am not lying, he said, his voice too steady. I do not know how Wang acquired that information. But I knew. I knew because I had seen that same information in Li Jian's private study, on a map spread across his desk. I had assumed it was part of his military duties, but now I realized it was something more. You have a spy in the western garrisons, I said slowly. You have been monitoring them. That is why you knew about the leak before anyone else. You were not just watching Wang. You were watching the entire military structure. He was silent for a long moment. Then he said, I have been protecting this empire for years, Mei Lin. Sometimes that means doing things that are not strictly legal. But I have never betrayed the emperor. I have never betrayed the people. Then why did you not tell me? I demanded. Why did you let me stumble through this investigation like a blind woman, when you knew the answers all along? Because I needed to know if I could trust you, he said, his voice raw. I have been betrayed by too many people, Mei Lin. My father, my brothers, the men I trusted with my life. When I met you, I saw something different in you. But I could not be sure. Not until I saw how you would handle this. I felt the anger drain out of me, replaced by something colder. And now are you sure now? He stepped closer, his eyes burning with an intensity that made my breath catch. I am sure. I have never been more sure of anything in my life. He reached for my hand, and I let him take it. The warmth of his touch spread through me, chasing away the chill of doubt. Then stop keeping secrets from me, I said. If we are partners, truly partners, then I need to know everything. Every risk, every danger, every hidden piece of this game. He nodded slowly. There is something I have not told you. Something that could change everything. I felt my heart quicken. What is it? He took a breath, as if steeling himself. The drought relief plan you presented to the Emperor. It was based on information I gave you. But that information came from a source that I've been cultivating for years, a source deep within the northern tribes. That source told me not just about the drought, but about the invasion. The northern tribes are planning to strike in 3 months, at the height of the drought. They are counting on our weakness, our desperation. I felt the ground shift beneath me. The invasion. The Emperor does not know about it. No one knows about it except me, he said. And now you. If the Emperor learns that I have been communicating with the enemy, even to gather intelligence, I will be executed. And everyone connected to me will fall with me. The weight of his confession pressed down on me. He had risked everything for this information. His life, his reputation, everything. And he had trusted me with it. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Why now? Because if we are going to stop the invasion, we need to act quickly, he said. And I cannot do it alone. I need you, Mei Lin. I need your mind, your courage, your fire. I need you to help me save this empire. I looked into his eyes, and I saw the truth there. The fear, the hope, the fierce determination that burned at his core. He was not using me. He was asking me. Truly asking, as an equal. What do you need me to do? I asked. He released my hand and stepped back, his expression shifting to that of the strategist. We need to expose Minister Wang, but we need to do it in a way that does not reveal my source. If the Emperor knows that I have been spying on the military, he will never trust me again. We need to find another way to prove Wang's guilt. I thought for a moment, my mind racing. The letter, I said. The one you intercepted. It is enough to arrest Wang, but it is not enough to convict him. He could claim it is a forgery, that someone is trying to frame him. Exactly, Li Jian said. We need something more. Something that cannot be denied. I looked down at the letter in my hands, studying the handwriting, the seal. And then I saw it. A detail I had missed before. The seal was not Wang's personal seal. It was an official seal, one used for military dispatches. A seal that Wang could only have obtained if he had access to the military archives. The seal, I said, looking up at Li Jian. It is from the military archives. Only a handful of people have access to that seal. If we can prove that Wang was in the archives on the night this letter was dated, we can prove his guilt. Li Jian's eyes widened. The archives are guarded by the Imperial Guard. We cannot just walk in and ask for the records. We do not need to walk in, I said, a plan forming in my mind. We need to find a witness. Someone who saw Wang there. Someone who would be willing to testify. I thought of Grandmother Li, of her network of allies and informants. I need to speak with your grandmother, I said. She might know someone who can help. Li Jian nodded slowly. I will take you to her. We walked back through the gardens, the moon casting long shadows across the path. I could feel the weight of the letter in my hand, the weight of everything that was at stake. When we reached Grandmother Li's chambers, she was already awake, as if she had been expecting us. She sat by the fire, a cup of tea in her hands, her eyes sharp and knowing. I heard you were coming, she said. The walls have ears, my dear. And they tell me you have uncovered something important. I handed her the letter. She read it, her expression unchanging. Then she looked up at me, her eyes glinting. Minister Wang. I have always suspected him. But I never had proof. We need a witness, I said. Someone who saw Wang in the military archives on the night this letter was dated. Do you know anyone who could help? She was silent for a long moment, her fingers drumming against the arm of her chair. Then she smiled, a slow, dangerous smile. I know someone. The archivist, a man named Lu. He is loyal to the Empire, but he has been overlooked for promotion for years. He might be willing to help, for the right price. What price? I asked. Justice, she said. He wants to see the corruption in this court rooted out. He has been waiting for someone to come along who could actually do something about it. I felt a surge of hope. Can you arrange a meeting? She nodded. Tomorrow night. I will send word to Lu. But you must be careful, my dear. If Wang learns that you are investigating him, he will not hesitate to silence you. I am already in danger, I said. I have been in danger since the moment I was born. I am not afraid. Grandmother Li looked at me, and there was something like pride in her eyes. You are going to change this world, Lady Li. I can feel it. The next night, I met Lu in a small tea house near the Imperial Palace. He was a thin, nervous man with spectacles perched on his nose, his hands trembling as he poured his tea. Lady Li, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I have heard of your investigation. I know what you are looking for. Did you see Minister Wang in the archives? I asked, not bothering with pleasantries. He nodded, his eyes darting around the room. I saw him 3 weeks ago, in the middle of the night. He was looking at the Western garrison maps. I thought it was strange, but I did not dare question him. He is a powerful man. Would you be willing to testify? I asked. He hesitated, fear flickering in his eyes. If I do, he will destroy me. My family, my livelihood, everything. I will protect you, I said. I have the Emperor's trust. I can ensure that you are safe. He looked at me, searching for the truth in my eyes. And then he nodded. I will do it. I will testify. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Thank you, Lu. You are doing the right thing. As I left the tea house, I felt a presence behind me. I turned, but there was no one there. Just the shadows, shifting in the moonlight. I walked faster, my heart pounding. I had what I needed. I had the witness. I had the proof. Now all I had to do was present it to the Emperor. But as I rounded a corner, a hand grabbed my arm, yanking me into an alley. I opened my mouth to scream, but a hand clamped over my mouth, silencing me. I looked up into the face of a man I did not recognize, his eyes cold and empty. He held a knife to my throat, his breath hot against my ear. You should have stayed out of this, Lady Li, he hissed. Minister Wang sends his regards. I felt the blade press against my skin. This was it. I was going to die in this alley, and no one would ever know what I had uncovered. And then I heard a whistle, sharp and piercing. The man's eyes widened, and he released me, stumbling back. An arrow was embedded in his chest, his blood pooling on the cobblestones. Li Jian stepped out of the shadows, his bow still raised, his eyes blazing with fury. He crossed to me in 3 swift strides, pulling me into his arms. Are you hurt? He demanded, his voice rough. I am fine, I said, my voice shaking. You saved me. I will always save you, he said. But we need to move. Wang knows we are coming. We need to get to the Emperor before he does. We ran through the streets, the moonlight our only guide. I could feel the danger closing in around us, the walls of the conspiracy tightening like a noose. When we reached the palace, the guards recognized Li Jian and let us pass without question. We burst into the Emperor's chambers, breathless and disheveled. The Emperor looked up from his desk, his eyes widening at the sight of us. "Generally, Lady Li, what is the meaning of this?" I stepped forward, my voice steady despite everything. "Your Majesty, I have proof. Minister Wang is the spy. I have a witness who saw him in the military archives, stealing the Western garrison maps. I have the letter he wrote to the northern tribes. He is selling your secrets, Your Majesty. He has been doing it for years." The Emperor's face went pale. He took the letter from my hands, reading it with growing horror. "How did you uncover this?" "I had help," I said, glancing at Li Jian. "From my husband. And from Liu, the archivist. They are both loyal to the Empire." The Emperor looked at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of gratitude and awe. "You have saved this empire, Lady Li. I will never forget this." He called for his guards, ordering them to arrest Minister Wang immediately. But as they left, I felt a chill run down my spine. Something was wrong. Something I could not quite name. And then I remembered the letter, the one detail that had bothered me. The Western garrison information. Li Jian had claimed he did not know how Wang had acquired it. But I had seen that same information in a study. I turned to look at Li Jian, and for the first time, I saw something in his eyes that I had never seen before. Guilt. He had lied to me. He had not just been spying on the military. He had been feeding Wang the information, using him as a pawn in a larger game. I whispered, my voice barely audible. "You are the one who gave him the Western garrison maps. You are the one who has been controlling this from the beginning." He looked at me, his expression unreadable. But he did not deny it. "Mei Lin," he said, his voice low. "I can explain." And in that moment, I realized that everything I thought I knew was a lie. My husband, my partner, the man I was beginning to love, had been playing me all along. The word hung between us like a blade. I stared at Li Jian, waiting for him to deny it, to offer some explanation that would make sense of the chaos swirling in my mind. But he said nothing. He only looked at me with those jade eyes, and in them I saw the truth I had been too blind to recognize. "You used me," I said, my voice cold. "From the very beginning. You did not save me because you cared. You saved me because I was useful. A pawn to be moved on your board." "No," he said, stepping toward me. "That is not, do not lie to me." I snapped, my voice echoing through the Emperor's chambers. The guards had frozen, their hands on their swords, unsure whether to intervene. The Emperor watched us both, his face a mask of confusion and suspicion. I turned to the Emperor, forcing my voice to steady. "Your Majesty, I have just uncovered a conspiracy far deeper than Minister Wang's. My husband, General Li Jian, is the one who gave Wang the Western garrison information. He has been running his own intelligence network, operating outside your authority, manipulating events to serve his own ends." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "Generally, is this true?" Li Jian bowed, his expression unreadable. "Your Majesty, I have served this empire faithfully for years. I have never betrayed your trust. I admit that I have been gathering intelligence on the northern tribes, but I have done so to protect the empire, not to harm it." "Then why did you feed information to Wang?" I demanded. "Why did you let him sell your secrets to the enemy?" "Because I needed to know who he was selling them to," Li Jian said, his voice calm. "I gave him information that was outdated, false. It was a trap. Wang believed he was passing along valuable intelligence, but the northern tribes acted on that information and were defeated in a skirmish 3 weeks ago. They lost 500 men. I felt the ground shift beneath me. That skirmish. I heard about it. It was reported as a routine border patrol. It was not routine, Li Jian said. I orchestrated it. I used Wang as a tool to lure the northern tribes into a trap. And it worked. The Emperor leaned forward, his interest piqued. You used a traitor to feed false information to the enemy, that is, a bold strategy. It was the only way to identify the leak without exposing my own sources, Li Jian said. I knew Wang was passing information, but I did not know who he was passing it to. So I gave him a piece of information that seemed valuable but was actually a trap. When the enemy acted on it, I knew exactly who Wang's contact was. I shook my head, trying to make sense of it. But you could have told me. You could have trusted me with this. I could not, he said, his voice softening. Because if you knew, you could not have acted with genuine conviction. The Emperor needed to see your sincerity. He needed to believe that you were uncovering the truth on your own. If I had told you, your investigation would have been tainted. The Emperor would have suspected you were acting on my orders. He was right. I hated it, but he was right. The Emperor's trust in me was based on the belief that I was an independent agent, untainted by loyalty to any faction. If Li Jian had told me the truth, I would have become just another piece in his game. But that did not change the fact that he had lied to me. I understand the strategy, I said, my voice tight. But you made me a fool. You let me believe that I was your partner, your equal. And all along, you were pulling the strings. Li Jian stepped closer, his eyes burning with intensity. I pulled the strings because I had to. But I never treated you as a pawn. You were never a pawn, Mei Lin. From the moment I met you, you were the only person I trusted. That is why I gave you the investigation. That is why I revealed my sources to you. I knew you would not betray me. You did not trust me enough to tell me the truth, I said. I trust you enough to tell you now, he said. Everything. Every secret I have kept, every risk I have taken. I will tell you all of it. But I need you to trust me in return. I need you to believe that everything I did for the Empire. And for you. I looked into his eyes, searching for the truth. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that the man I had fallen in love with was not a manipulator, not a liar. But the wound of his deception was still fresh, still bleeding. The Emperor cleared his throat. This is fascinating, but I have a more pressing concern. Minister Wang is still at large. If he learns that his network has been compromised, he may flee. We need to arrest him before he disappears. Li Jian turned to the Emperor. Your Majesty, I have already sent my men to Wang's residence. He will be in custody within the hour. The Emperor nodded, a look of approval on his face. Good. And Lady Li, I want you to know that your role in this investigation has not gone unnoticed. You have proven yourself to be a loyal servant of the Empire. I will not forget it. I bowed, forcing a mask of composure. Thank you, Your Majesty. As we left the Emperor's chambers, I walked ahead of Li Jian, my steps quick and purposeful. He caught up to me in the corridor, his hand on my elbow. Mei Lin, please. Let me explain. You have explained enough, I said, not looking at him. I need time to think. Time is the one thing we do not have, he said, his voice urgent. Wang's arrest is only the beginning. The northern tribes will not wait for us to regroup. They will strike at the height of the drought, just as we predicted. And if we are divided, we will fall. I stopped walking and turned to face him. You keep talking about us. But there is no us, Li Jian. There is only you and your secrets. You have been playing this game for years. I have been playing it for weeks. I am still learning the rules. Then learn from me, he said, his voice rough. I will teach you everything I know. I will give you every tool you need to survive. But you have to trust me, Mei Lin. You have to believe that I am on your side. I studied his face, the lines of tension around his eyes, the set of his jaw. He was afraid. I could see it now, the fear beneath the mask. He was afraid of losing me. Why, I asked. Why do you care so much? I am just a woman you saved on a whim. A convenient tool to use against your enemies. Why does it matter to you if I trust you or not? He was silent for a long moment. Then he said, because you are the only person who has ever seen me. Not the general, not the strategist, not the son of a powerful house. You saw me, Li Jian, the man. And you did not flinch. You looked into my eyes and you saw the truth of who I am, and you stayed anyway. He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. I have spent my entire life surrounded by people who want something from me. My father wanted a successor. My brothers wanted my position. The Emperor wanted my loyalty. But you asked for nothing. You asked only for the truth. And I failed to give it to you. I am sorry, Mei Lin. I am truly sorry. I felt the anger in my chest begin to soften, replaced by something more complicated. He was a man of secrets and lies, but he was also a man of honor. He had risked everything to protect the empire. He had risked everything to protect me. Show me, I said. Show me the truth. All of it. No more secrets, no more lies. If we are to be partners, truly partners, then I need to know everything. He nodded slowly. I will. I swear it on my life. He took my hand and led me through the corridors, past the guards and the servants, to a part of the palace I had never seen. It was a small, hidden room, its walls lined with maps and documents. A single candle flickered on a desk, casting shadows across the space. This is my command center, he said. No one knows about it except my most trusted men. And now you. I looked around the room, taking in the maps of the northern territories, the notes on troop movements, the lists of names and alliances. It was the mind of a strategist, laid bare. Everything I have done, every choice I have made, has been in service of this, he said. The northern tribes are not the only threat. There are factions within the empire that would see the emperor fall. Minister Wang was just one piece of a larger puzzle. There are others, more powerful, more dangerous. And they're closing in. Who? I asked. He pointed to a map of the capital, marked with the estates of the noble houses. The Chancellor, Lord Zhao, has been building an alliance against the emperor. He has been funneling gold to the northern tribes, hoping to weaken the empire so he can seize power. He is the real threat, Mei Lin. Minister Wang was only a pawn in his game. I felt a chill run down my spine. Lord Zhao, the man who had been so kind to me at court, who had praised my drought relief plan, who had offered me his personal congratulations on my marriage. He had been playing a game even deeper than Li Jian's. How do you know this? I asked. I have a source within his household, Li Jian said. A servant who has been feeding me information for months. Zhao is planning to move against the emperor at the height of the drought. He will use the chaos to launch a coup. Then we need to stop him, I said. We need to warn the emperor. If we warn the emperor without proof, he will not act, Li Jian said. Zhao is too powerful. He has allies in every corner of the court. We need irrefutable evidence, something that will bring him down. I thought for a moment, my mind racing. The servant. Can we get more information from him? Li Jian shook his head. He is terrified. He will not risk exposing himself unless we can guarantee his safety. Then we guarantee it, I said. We give him a way out. Protection, a new identity, a future far from here. If he knows he will be safe, he may be willing to help. Li Jian looked at me, a glimmer of approval in his eyes. You are a strategist, Mei Lin. You have the mind of a general. I had a good teacher, I said, a ghost of a smile on my lips. He reached out and took my hand, his fingers warm against mine. We will do this together. We will bring down Lord Zhao, expose his conspiracy, and save the empire. And when it is done, we will build something new. Something better. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that we could create a world where women were not sold, where power was not a weapon, where trust was not a luxury. But I knew that the road ahead would be long and difficult. I will hold you to that, I said. The next morning, I met the servant in a small tea house near the palace. His name was Zhang, a thin, nervous man with haunted eyes. He had been working in Zhao's household for a decade, but he had been spying for Li Jian for only a year. I have information, Zhang said, his voice shaking. Lord Zhao is planning to poison the emperor at the autumn banquet. He has already secured the poison from a contact in the north. He will strike when the emperor is distracted. I felt my blood run cold. When is the banquet? In 3 days, Zhang said. I have the name of the poisoner. A man named Wu, a merchant who operates out of the eastern market. He is the one who procured the poison. Can you get me proof? I asked. Something I can take to the emperor. Zhang hesitated. There is a letter. Zhao wrote to Wu, instructing him to procure the poison. I have not seen it, but I know it exists. It is hidden in Zhao's study, in a false panel behind his desk. I nodded. I will find it. Leaving the tea house, I felt the weight of Zhang's words pressing down on me. 3 days. That was all the time we had to stop Zhao. If we failed, the emperor would be dead, and the empire would be plunged into chaos. I returned to Li Jian's compound and found him in his study, studying a map of the palace. "We have 3 days," I said. "Zhao is planning to poison the emperor at the autumn banquet. I need to get into his study and find the letter." Li Jian looked up, his expression grim. "That is the most heavily guarded part of the palace. Zhao's study is protected by a dozen guards at least. You will never get in without being detected." "Then I will need a distraction," I said. "A reason for the guards to leave their posts." He thought for a moment, then nodded slowly. "The day before the banquet, there is a parade in the Eastern District. Most of the palace guards will be diverted to provide security. If I can create a diversion at the same time, I may be able to pull Zhao's personal guards away." "Then it is settled," I said. "The day before the banquet, I will sneak into Zhao's study and find the letter." Li Jian reached out and took my hand. "This is dangerous, Mei Lin. If you are caught, Zhao will not hesitate to kill you." "Then I will not be caught," I said, meeting his eyes. "I have survived too much to be killed by a petty nobleman." The day before the banquet, I dressed in servant's clothing, my hair tucked under a plain cap. I blended in with the crowds in the Eastern District, watching the parade from the shadows. When the explosion came, it was loud enough to shake the ground. I moved quickly, slipping through the palace corridors, my heart pounding in my chest. The guards were gone, drawn away by the chaos. I reached Zhao's study and slipped inside, my hands trembling as I searched for the false panel. It took me a precious minute to find it, hidden behind a painting of a mountain landscape. I pressed the panel, and it swung open, revealing a small compartment filled with documents. And there it was. The letter, signed in Zhao's own hand, instructing Wu to procure the poison. I tucked it into my robes and slipped out of the study, my heart racing. I had done it. I had the proof. But as I rounded a corner, I found myself face to face with Lord Zhao himself. His eyes widened, and I knew he recognized me. "Lady Li," he said, his voice cold. What a surprise. I felt the letter burning against my chest. I was caught. There was no escape. But before I could speak, a familiar voice rang out from behind me. "Lord Zhao, I have been looking for you." Li Jian stepped out of the shadows, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword. His eyes met mine, and I saw the fierce determination there. "I have just received word from my sources," Li Jian said, his voice calm and measured. "The northern tribes are attacking the border. The emperor has called an emergency council. You are needed immediately." Zhao's face flickered with suspicion, but he nodded. "Very well, generally. I will attend the council." As he walked away, Li Jian caught my arm, pulling me into the shadows. "We have minutes, maybe less. We need to get out of here." We ran, slipping through the corridors, through the gardens, through the back gates of the palace. When we finally reached the safety of his compound, I pulled out the letter, my hands shaking. "I have it," I said. "The proof. Yao's confession." Li Jian took the letter, reading it quickly. Then he looked up at me, his eyes shining with something I had never seen before. "Pride. You did it, Mei Lin. You saved the empire." But even as he spoke, I felt a shadow of doubt creep over me. The letter was proof, yes. But it was not the full truth. There were still questions, still secrets. And somewhere in the darkness, I knew that Zhao was not the only one pulling the strings. The game was far from over. The morning of the autumn banquet dawned gray and cold, the sky heavy with clouds that promised rain. I stood before the mirror in my chambers, watching the maids arrange my hair with jeweled pins, my reflection unfamiliar to my own eyes. I was no longer the frightened girl who had fled her father's house. I was a woman who had uncovered a conspiracy, who had held the fate of the empire in her hands. And now, I was about to walk into a trap. I had the letter. I had proof that Lord Zhao had conspired to poison the emperor. But I also knew that Zhao would not go quietly. He had allies, resources, and a network of spies who would do anything to protect him. If I presented the letter at the banquet, I would be making myself a target. But I had no choice. The emperor's life depended on it. Li Jian found me in my chambers, his expression grim. "Are you ready?" "I am as ready as I will ever be," I said, turning to face him. But I cannot shake the feeling that something is wrong. Zhao knows that I am investigating him. He knows I have been asking questions. He must suspect that I have the letter. "Then we will not give him time to act," Li Jian said. We will present the letter to the emperor at the banquet, in front of the entire court. Zhao will have no choice but to face the consequences. I nodded, but the unease in my chest would not fade. What if he has already made his move? What if he has already poisoned the emperor? The emperor's food is tasted by a taster before it reaches him, Li Jian said. Zhao could not have acted without being detected. Unless the taster is part of the conspiracy, I said. Li Jian's face went pale. I did not consider that possibility. Then we need to act now, I said. We cannot wait for the banquet. We need to find the emperor and warn him directly. Li Jian nodded, his jaw set with determination. We will go together. But we must be careful. Zhao has eyes everywhere. We made our way through the palace corridors, our steps swift and silent. The palace was bustling with preparations for the banquet, servants hurrying in every direction, guards stationed at every entrance. We reached the emperor's private chambers, only to find them empty. Where is he? I asked, panic rising in my chest. The throne room, Li Jian said. He is meeting with his advisors before the banquet. We ran, our footsteps echoing through the empty corridors. When we reached the throne room, I saw the emperor seated on his throne, surrounded by his advisors. And standing at his side, his face a mask of perfect calm, was Lord Zhao. My heart stopped. We were too late. Zhao was already with him. Your Majesty. I called out, my voice cutting through the murmurs of the court. I have urgent news. Lord Zhao is plotting against you. The room fell silent. The emperor's eyes widened, his gaze flickering between me and Zhao. Lord Zhao's expression did not change, but I saw a flicker of something in his eyes. Anger. And fear. Lady Li, the emperor said slowly. What is the meaning of this? I stepped forward, pulling the letter from my robes. Your Majesty, I have proof that Lord Zhao conspired to poison you at tonight's banquet. He procured the poison from a merchant named Wu, and he has been building an alliance with the northern tribes to seize power. I held out the letter, my hand trembling. The emperor took it, his eyes scanning the words. When he looked up, his face was thunderous. Lord Zhao, he said, his voice cold. Is this true? Yao's mask cracked, just slightly. Your Majesty, that letter is a forgery. Lady Li has been manipulated by her husband, General Li Jian, who has been plotting against you for years. I felt the ground shift beneath me. He was deflecting, turning the accusation back on us. General Li Jian is the true traitor, Zhao continued, his voice rising with conviction. He has been feeding information to the northern tribes, using Minister Wang as his pawn. He orchestrated the skirmish at the border to make himself look like a hero, but it was all a lie. He is the one who has been betraying you, Your Majesty. The room erupted into chaos. Advisors shouted over each other, guards shifted uneasily, and the emperor looked from Li Jian to Zhao, his expression unreadable. Generally, the emperor said, his voice quiet but sharp. What do you have to say for yourself? Li Jian stepped forward, his head held high. Your Majesty, everything Lord Zhao has said is a lie. I have served you faithfully for years. It was I who discovered the conspiracy against you. It was I who fed false information to the northern tribes, luring them into a trap. I have never betrayed you, and I never will. Then why, Zhao said, his voice dripping with malice, did your men arrest Minister Wang on false charges? Why did you destroy a loyal servant of the empire? Wang was a traitor, Li Jian said, his voice steady. He was selling military secrets to the northern tribes. I had proof of his guilt. The emperor has seen that proof. The emperor looked at me, his eyes filled with uncertainty. Lady Li, you have been at the center of this investigation from the beginning. What do you believe? I met his gaze, my heart pounding. Your Majesty, I believe that Lord Zhao is the true traitor. The letter I have presented is genuine. I obtained it from his study, hidden behind a false panel. I also have a witness, a servant who can testify that Zhao planned the assassination. Zhao laughed, a cold, harsh sound. A servant's testimony a forgery, these are the words of a woman who has been manipulated by her husband. She is a pawn, nothing more. She has no idea what she is talking about. I felt the words like a slap. A pawn. He was reducing everything I had done, everything I had sacrificed, to nothing. I am not a pawn, I said, my voice ringing through the hall. I am a woman who has survived more than you can imagine. I have been sold, betrayed, and used by the men who were supposed to protect me. But I am still standing. And I will not let you destroy this empire. I turned to the emperor. Your Majesty, I ask for a chance to prove my case. Let me bring the servant, Zhang, before you. Let him tell you what he knows. And let me search Zhao's residence for further evidence. The emperor was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. Very well. Lady Li, I will give you until the end of the day to prove your claims. If you cannot, there will be consequences. I bowed, my heart racing. Thank you, Your Majesty. As I left the throne room, I felt Li Jian's hand on my elbow. We need to find Zhang before Zhao does, he said. He will try to silence him. We ran through the palace, our steps frantic. When we reached Zhang's quarters, we found them empty. His belongings were scattered on the floor, as if he had left in a hurry. He is gone, I said, panic rising in my chest. Zhao got to him first. Li Jian's face was grim. If Zhang is dead, we have lost our witness. The letter alone may not be enough to convict Zhao. Then we need to find another way, I said. There has to be something else, something we have missed. We searched Zhang's rooms, looking for any clue, any piece of evidence that could save us. And then I saw it, tucked beneath his mattress. A small notebook, filled with names and dates. What is this? I asked, opening it. Li Jian looked over my shoulder, his eyes widening. It is a list of every nobleman who has been meeting with Zhao in secret. Names, dates, locations. This is more than proof of Zhao's conspiracy. This is the blueprint of his entire network. I felt a surge of hope. We can use this. We can present it to the emperor and show him that Zhao has been building an alliance against him. But we still need Zhang, Li Jian said. Without him, we cannot prove that the notebook is genuine. Then we find him, I said. He cannot have gone far. We searched the palace, the gardens, the surrounding streets. We questioned servants, guards, anyone we could find. And finally, we found him, hiding in a small chapel near the palace gates. Zhang was trembling, his face pale with fear. Please, he said, his voice shaking. I could not stay. Zhao's men were coming for me. I had to run. You are safe now, I said, kneeling beside him. I will protect you. But I need you to testify. I need you to tell the emperor what you know. Zhang hesitated, fear flickering in his eyes. If I testify, Zhao will kill me. He will kill my family. I will not let that happen, I said. You have my word. When this is over, I will give you a new identity, a new life far from here. You will never have to be afraid again. He looked at me, searching for the truth in my eyes. Then he nodded. I will do it. I will testify. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Thank you, Zhang. You are doing the right thing. We brought Zhang before the emperor, and he told his story. He spoke of the late-night meetings, the coded messages, the poison procured from Wu. He spoke of Zhao's plan to seize power, to overthrow the emperor and install himself as ruler. When he finished, the emperor's face was dark with fury. He turned to Zhao, his voice ablaze. What do you have to say for yourself? Zhao's mask had finally fallen. He was pale, his hands shaking. Your Majesty, this is a conspiracy. General Li Jian has been building a case against me for years. He has manipulated this woman, this servant, to destroy me. Then explain the notebook, I said, holding it up. Explain the names, the dates, the meetings. Explain why you have been meeting with these men in secret, discussing the overthrow of the emperor. Zhao opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. He was trapped, and he knew it. The emperor rose from his throne, his voice cold with fury. Lord Zhao, you are hereby arrested for high treason. Your estates will be seized, and your allies will be investigated. You will be held in the imperial prison until your trial. Guards stepped forward, seizing Zhao by the arms. He struggled, his eyes wild with desperation. You will regret this, Your Majesty. You will all regret this. As he was dragged from the room, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. It was over. Zhao was defeated. The conspiracy was unraveling. But as I looked at Li Jian, I saw something in his eyes that made my blood run cold. He was not celebrating. He was worried. What is wrong? I asked. It is over. We won. He shook his head, his expression grim. it is not over. Zhao was not working alone. There is someone else, someone higher, someone who has been pulling the strings from the very beginning. Who? I asked. He met my eyes, and I saw the truth there, written in the lines of his face. My father, he said. Lord Li. He has been the mastermind behind this entire conspiracy. Zhao was only a pawn. I felt the world tilt around me. His father. The head of his house, the man who had raised him, who had shaped him into the warrior he had become. He was the true enemy. Your father is planning to seize power, I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He has been planning it for years, Li Jian said. He used Zhao to do his dirty work, to create chaos, to weaken the emperor. And when the time was right, he would step in, claiming to be the only one who could restore order. He would seize the throne for himself. I felt a cold dread settle over me. What do we do? Li Jian took a breath, his expression hardening. We stop him. But we need to be careful. My father is more dangerous than Zhao. He has allies in the military, in the court, in the shadows. If we move against him openly, he will destroy us. Then we need a plan, I said. We need to outmaneuver him. Li Jian nodded slowly. There is a way. But it will require something I did not want to do. What? I asked. He met my eyes, his voice heavy with pain. I will need to confront him directly. I will need to challenge him in front of the entire court. If I can force him to reveal his true intentions, we may be able to stop him. And if you cannot, I asked. Then we will fall, he said. Both of us. I reached out and took his hand. Then we fall together. He looked at me, and I saw the fear and the hope warring in his eyes. And then he smiled, a small, fragile smile. I do not deserve you, Mei Lin. Stop saying that, I said. We are partners. We rise together, we fall together. That is what partners do. We stood in the empty throne room, the weight of the coming battle pressing down on us. Lord Li was the final piece of the puzzle, the ultimate enemy. And we had to face him together. The night before I confronted my father-in-law, I could not sleep. I lay beside Li Jian, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing with every possible outcome. Lord Li was not like Zhao. He was older, wiser, more patient. He had spent decades building his power, weaving his web of influence through every corner of the empire. He would not be defeated by a letter or a servant's testimony. He would need to be outmaneuvered, outthought, outplayed. And I had to be the one to do it. I rose before dawn, dressing in my finest robes, the deep blue silk of Li Jian's house. I pinned my hair with jade and gold, and I looked at myself in the mirror. The woman staring back at me was not the girl who had fled her father's house. She was a warrior, a strategist, a survivor. Li Jian found me in the garden, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson. He looked tired, the lines of tension etched deep into his face. Are you ready? He asked. I am as ready as I will ever be, I said. But I need to ask you something. If we do this, if we expose your father, you will be destroying your own house. Your own family. Are you prepared for that? He was silent for a long moment. Then he said, my father stopped being my family the moment he started plotting against the emperor. He has been using me, manipulating me, turning me into a weapon for his own ambitions. I am not his son anymore. I am an enemy of the empire, and I will do what I have to do to protect it. I reached out and took his hand. Then we do this together. We walked to the throne room, our steps measured and steady. The court was already assembled, the nobles murmuring amongst themselves, their eyes flickering with curiosity and suspicion. Lord Li stood near the throne, his face a mask of calm authority. He was a tall man, broad-shouldered, with the same jade eyes as his son. When he saw us, his expression did not change. But I saw the calculation in his gaze, the rapid assessment of the threat we posed. Generally, Lord Li said, his voice smooth as silk. Lady Li, I was not expecting you so early. We have come to speak with the Emperor, Li Jian said, his voice steady. We have new evidence regarding the conspiracy against the throne. Lord Li's eyes narrowed. New evidence. I was under the impression that the conspiracy had been dealt with. Lord Zhao has been arrested. The matter is closed. The matter is not closed, I said, stepping forward. Because Lord Zhao was not the mastermind. He was only a pawn. The true traitor is still at large, and he has been plotting against the Emperor for years. The murmurs in the room grew louder. The Emperor, seated on his throne, leaned forward, his eyes sharp with interest. Lady Li, the Emperor said. Who is this traitor you speak of? I took a breath, steadying myself. Your Majesty, the traitor is Lord Li, my husband's father. He has been building an alliance against you for decades, using Lord Zhao as his instrument. He has funneled gold to the northern tribes, weakened the military, and plotted to seize the throne for himself. The room erupted into chaos. Nobles shouted over each other, their voices a cacophony of accusation and denial. Lord Li's face remained calm, but I saw the flicker of anger in his eyes. This is absurd, Lord Li said, his voice cutting through the noise. I have served this empire faithfully for 50 years. I have bled for this throne. I have sacrificed more than anyone in this room. And now I am being accused by a woman who has been married to my son for less than a month. Your service to the empire is not in question, I said, my voice steady. What is in question is your loyalty. You have been using your position to build a network of allies, to gather resources, to prepare for a coup. I have proof. I held up the notebook I had found in Zhang's quarters, the list of names and dates. This notebook contains the names of every nobleman you have been meeting with in secret. It details your plans, your alliances, your betrayal. Lord Li laughed, a cold, harsh sound. A notebook that is your proof. Anyone could have written those names. Anyone could have forged those dates. You have nothing but hearsay and speculation. I also have a witness, I said. A servant who worked in your household for years. He can testify to your meetings, your plans, your conspiracy. Lord Li's eyes flickered with something like fear. A servant, a man who would say anything to save his own skin. You expect the Emperor to believe the word of a servant over a lord of the court. I expect the Emperor to believe the truth, I said. And the truth is that you have been plotting against him for years. You used Lord Zhao as your pawn, feeding him information, manipulating him into carrying out your plans. And when he was arrested, you abandoned him, leaving him to take the fall for your crimes. Lord Li's composure finally cracked. His face reddened, his hands clenched into fists. You are a fool, Lady Li. You have no idea what you are talking about. You are a woman, a child, a pawn in a game you do not understand. I understand more than you think, I said. I understand that you have been using your own son as a weapon. You manipulated him, trained him, turned him into a tool for your ambition. And when he refused to follow your orders, you tried to destroy him. Lord Li's eyes darted to his son, and I saw the hatred there, burning bright. You are a traitor, he spat. You have turned your back on your own blood. You have betrayed your family for a woman who was sold to a dead man. I have not betrayed my family, Li Jian said, his voice cold. I have betrayed a traitor. There is a difference. The Emperor rose from his throne, his face dark with fury. Lord Li, I have heard enough. You will be arrested and held for trial. Your estates will be seized, and your allies will be investigated. Lord Li's face contorted with rage. You think you can arrest me? I am a lord of the court, a man who has served this empire for 50 years. I have more power than you can imagine. He reached into his robes, and I saw the glint of steel. A dagger. He lunged toward the Emperor, his face twisted with murderous intent. But Li Jian was faster. He stepped between his father and the Emperor, his sword drawn, his stance unyielding. Father, Li Jian said, his voice heavy with pain. Do not do this. Lord Li hesitated, his eyes flickering with something like regret. And then he lunged. The clash of steel echoed through the throne room. Li Jian parried his father's strike, his movements fluid and precise. The guards rushed forward, but the Emperor held up his hand, stopping them. Let them fight, the Emperor said, his voice cold. Let this be settled between them. I watched, my heart pounding, as father and son faced each other. Lord Li was older, slower, but he was experienced, cunning. Li Jian was younger, faster, but he was fighting his own blood, the man who had raised him. I trained you, Lord Li growled, his blade flashing. I made you the warrior you are today. And this is how you repay me. You train me to serve the empire, Li Jian said, his voice steady. Not to betray it. Lord Li lunged again, his dagger aimed at Li Jian's heart. But Li Jian sidestepped, his sword slicing through the air. The blade caught Lord Li's arm, and he dropped the dagger with a cry of pain. The guards rushed forward, seizing Lord Li and pinning him to the ground. He struggled, his eyes wild with fury. "This is not over," he snarled. "You will all pay for this. You will all burn." As he was dragged from the room, I felt a wave of exhaustion wash over me. It was over. The conspiracy was finally ended. But as I looked at Li Jian, I saw the pain in his eyes. He had just fought his own father, had just defeated him in front of the entire court. He had lost everything, his family, his legacy, his blood. I reached out and took his hand. "Are you all right?" He was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "I have never been more alone in my life." "You are not alone," I said. "You have me." He looked at me, and I saw the tears in his eyes. "I do not deserve you, Mei Lin." "Stop saying that," I said. "We are partners. We are in this together." The Emperor stepped forward, his expression unreadable. "Generally, Lady Li, you have both served the Empire with honor and courage. I will not forget what you have done for me. You will be rewarded." Li Jian bowed, his voice steady. "Your Majesty, all I ask is that you allow me to serve you. That is reward enough." The Emperor nodded, a small smile on his lips. "Then you shall have what you ask for." The weeks that followed were a blur of activity. Lord Li's trial was swift, his crimes laid bare for all to see. He was stripped of his titles, his estate seized, his allies scattered to the winds. The northern tribes, without their patron, retreated to the mountains. The empire was safe. But the victory felt hollow. Li Jian had lost his family, his legacy, everything he had ever known. He walked through the compound like a ghost, his eyes hollow, his movements slow. I found him in the garden one evening, staring at the koi pond. The moon was full, its light silvering the water. "You have not eaten in 2 days," I said, sitting beside him. "You need to take care of yourself." "I am not hungry," he said. "Li Jian," I said, my voice soft. "I know you are hurting. But you cannot let this destroy you. You did the right thing. You saved the empire." "I betrayed my father," he said, his voice cracking. "I destroyed my own blood." "What kind of man does that?" "A man of honor," I said. "A man who chooses the truth over his own ambitions." "You are not your father, Li Jian. You are something better. You are someone who can be trusted." He looked at me, and I saw the tears in his eyes. "How do you know? How can you be so sure?" "Because I know you," I said. "I have seen you at your best and at your worst. I have seen you fight, and I have seen you bleed. And I know that you are a good man. A man worth loving." He reached out and took my hand, his grip warm and steady. "I love you, Mei Lin. I have loved you since the moment I saw you. And I will spend the rest of my life proving that to you." I smiled, leaning into him. "Then prove it. Show me that you are not your father. Show me that you are the man I believe you to be." He nodded, his expression determined. "I will. I swear it on my life." The months that followed were not easy. We faced challenges, both personal and political. The reconstruction of the empire required every ounce of our strength. But we faced them together, side by side, as partners and as equals. I became a trusted advisor to the emperor, my voice heard in the highest councils of the land. I used my influence to help the poor, to rebuild the villages destroyed by the drought, to create a future where women were no longer sold like chattel. I was not just a general's wife. I was a force in my own right. And Li Jian was at my side, supporting me, encouraging me, loving me. We were not just partners in politics. We were partners in life. The final test came on the anniversary of the conspiracy. Lord Zhao, who had been imprisoned for months, escaped his captors and raised an army of disgruntled nobles. He marched on the capital, determined to seize the throne. Li Jian was called to the front lines, his sword ready. I watched him leave, my heart heavy with fear. "Come back to me," I said, my voice trembling. He looked back, his jade eyes bright with determination. "I will always come back to you. That is a promise." The battle was fierce, the streets of the capital stained with blood. I watched from the palace walls, my hands clenched in my sleeves, praying to every god I knew. And then, as the sun began to set, I saw the familiar banner of Li Jian's house cresting the hill. He had won. He had defeated Zhao and his army, securing the empire once again. When he returned to the palace, I ran to him, throwing my arms around him. He was bruised and bloodied, but he was alive. And he was mine. "It is over," he said, his voice hoarse. "Zhao is dead. The conspiracy is finally ended." I looked into his eyes, and I saw the future there. A future of peace and prosperity, of love and partnership. A future we had built together. "You are a hero," I said. "No," he said, shaking his head. "We are heroes. Together." I smiled, leaning into him. "Together," I repeated. And as the moon rose over the capital, I felt a sense of peace that I had never known. I had been born again, not just in body, but in spirit. I had defied my father, escaped a terrible fate, found a partner who saw me as an equal. I had faced enemies both within and without, and I had emerged victorious. I was no longer the frightened girl who had fled her father's house. I was a woman of strength and purpose, a woman who had carved her own destiny from the chaos of the world. And I would never be afraid again.